man.
What's your name?
My name is Cardi Cornish.
And you a legend?
I'm a legend.
You're a legend here in Baltimore City. Where we at right now?
We live in the 17, Pennsylvania Avenue. The legendary Pennsylvania Avenue.
Man, the last time I saw you here, you were doing something just across the street here. What were you doing?
Oh yeah, I had some food left over from an event. We brung it out. We fed a couple of people, man.
Why you do that?
Nice soul food.
Why you do that?
Man, the love that God has shown me in Christ, man, it overflows. That's how it overflows.
That's right.
We got more than we can use.
Already was high within San Antonio, Winchester community, but the age group is getting younger. Children under the age of 18 being murdered in San Antonio has a high peak right now. So our goal is to catch the children.
You going hard, man. You going hard on that man today. So what do you think, Mr. Mayor? You got manufacturing right here, helping our young people despite all of the challenges in the city of Baltimore, right here on North Avenue.
No, it's really about the growth. Just knowing where, being there when they were down in Fort Covington and seeing how far it's grown. Like you said earlier, like getting the Soul Bay, you know, where we got the Soul Bay at the beginning, but now being able to, when I'm at Canada Yards, get it, or anytime I'm down at Harbor Place to get it, and folks to not even know, but they gonna know now that like this is coming from young people in West Baltimore, right there in West Baltimore on North Avenue, where they think nothing great comes from, but they can see it in what the young people do.
Here on the bank of Mississippi, about right there, French Ford Mathis. A beautiful town, just leaving Algiers, which is an update 10 years since Katrina. All right, y'all, this is what I came to New York for. Besides the Black Wall Street Awards, we're going ahead and get some of this real good jerk chicken. Johnny Glover, out.
I feel the warmth of your skin. Just the touch of your hand makes me tremble within.
But we need to feed our loved ones. DOTS needs to rescind this package policy program so that our loved ones are able to eat every day in that filthy facility that
we have some stars in the building.
First name's Doni, last name's Glover. In it to win it for the long haul, baby. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Or should I say, look up, Bob?
Good morning, Howard.
Should I say Heil Hitler?
Yeah, right.
Isn't that how you do it? Heil Hitler.
I don't know. You got to see what Musk. I guess you do it like Elon did yesterday.
Heil Hitler.
Yeah.
What's that all about? Byron Deese.
Hey man, happy New Year to you, brother. So good to see you in this new era of Trump, if you will, but we're here, brother. We're still breathing, so let's go.
Florida's still on the map. Michael Randolph down in Tampa Bay. Heil Hitler. What was going through your mind, Byron, when you saw Elon Musk do the Nazi salute?
Donnie, you're not serious. You know, I didn't watch any of that nonsense. I mean, I read about it, but there was no way in the world I was going to spend any time watching any of that nonsense.
And I'll tell you right now, I didn't purposely watch it, but I saw it. You know, in the social media world, it will notify you quickly when something crazy is going on. And when I saw that, you know, I realized that they're not afraid to be clear as to what we're getting ready to experience boldly over the next 4 years, hopefully only 4.
I hope they can handle it. I hope they can handle reaping what they sow.
Listen, I think it's very important right now for all Black folks to really get our head out of the sand and realize that what we knew as kind of the playing field from a political perspective, those days are gone. Those days are gone. The normal playbook that we follow, well, the Democrats going to do this and Republicans going to do, those days are over. And we have to come together and fully understand how to navigate this new regime, if you will, because this isn't Trump 1.0, where they had some guardrails, the old, folks who were in his office and old tried and true Republicans were kind of running different things and running his administration. This is a complete MAGA at its finest, and it's new to everyone. So we have to be prepared for that.
It is not new to white folk. This is simply white folk unbridled. That's all this is. You can go down each policy you want on immigration, except H-1B visas, which Musk needs for his operation. That's the exception. The pardon of the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. 14 of the leaders of those organizations part. Not to speak of the 1,600 or so people who trespassed upon and destroyed public property and killed people and injured people during the January 6th last year. This is as Black folk. What the real lesson here is that we ought to form and have our own. We cannot, this whole idea of assimilating into, integrating into, becoming part of an organization that's owned and controlled by white folk for the purpose of maintaining power by them is absolute nonsense. And those accomodationists who still believe after what has happened in this recent times, that is the correct path for Black folk to follow are living in la la land. Or still drinking the Kool-Aid.
Well, I guess we said it all. Need dual citizenship somewhere, huh?
Somewhere. I mean, here's a guy who don't even sign the Bible, who don't put his hand on the Bible because he's God. Why in the world would God have to swear to himself?
I missed that. He didn't put his hand on the Bible yesterday?
He did not put his hand on the Bible.
No, kept his hand at his side. I'm told. Again, I didn't watch it.
I wonder what Pat Robinson got to say about that.
I didn't see that. Wow.
I'm no fan of the 700 Club. Actually, it's a show I love to hate. But I wonder what Pat Robinson got to say about that. And his son.
Buckle your seatbelts.
Well, that's what they asked for. That's what they're gonna get. And he seems adamant about this immigration.
Oh yeah, that's happening today. I mean, it's National Guard is everywhere,
except for H-1B visas, except for the temporary help that his folks need to conduct their affairs. Everybody else has got to go, including the spouses of U.S. military people who are stationed in Afghanistan.
That's crazy.
And these are people who had plane tickets already. His reservations have been canceled. Come on.
It's speechless time. I mean, I'll tell you this. Here's something else, though, Donnie, that I noticed, and I again, speaking from a Black perspective. And I know I'm guilty of it too. And I think it sounds like all of us are guilty, but we cannot not pay attention to what's going on. I didn't watch the inauguration yesterday. There were a lot of people who said, don't watch it. All the Black folks, don't watch it. If you watch it, you're part of the problem. We all got to get past that. And the reason why, because we need to know if we're not up to speed of what's going on, that means we're on the menu. And we need to make sure we're on top of what's being said. He listed out how many executive orders did he issue yesterday? And how many of those executive orders got us on the menu? Like, if we're not paying attention and then we show up today and all of a sudden, what are you talking about? So executive order said XYZ happened. You didn't watch it yesterday? Yeah. So we can't afford to hide just because he's saying a bunch of coonery and buffoonery. We have to be on top of this because at the end of the day, again, what we have known over the past X amount of years of what happens from the federal government perspective as it relates to Black people, we can kiss all that stuff goodbye and realize this is a new day and we got to be on top of it.
Well, really, as it relates to poor people, period, we just happen to be on the front line. Where we've always been for every group, for every disaster, we are the first responders, if you will, for every disaster, natural or otherwise. We are, but so our goal, Donnie, is to have those other folks who realize that they're no better off than us, that notwithstanding their color, is to form coalitions at that level, because what we need now is another poor people campaign. Because that's what this is really about. This is really not about black and white. That's just the lines of division. The reality is this is about poor people. We need a poor people's campaign. That's what's needed in this country. Because that's the group that has to be exploited in order to keep Elon Musk in business.
I completely agree. And the part to that is, for people who aren't old enough to even know what a poor people's campaign is.
I forgot that.
But it's important to recognize that what is that? This is an economic campaign, and they're cutting lines in the sand between the have and the have-nots. And there are people who have live in a house and have a steady job and all that, and they believe that they're good, not realizing they don't control anything. Somebody else controls their purse strings. Somebody else says, I'm going to either send you a paycheck every day, or maybe you're a business owner and you have contracts with the government. Say, well, at least I got my contract. And then the government shuts off 8A, or the government gets rid of minority business enterprise as a certification. Then where's your dollar coming from? Do we control anything from an economic perspective? And that's what we have to keep our eyes open to, because once that economic line is cut, then what are we going to do? We have to know how to stay self-sufficient. And that's the importance of what's next to come.
What does Annapolis do? How does Annapolis respond?
Donnie, you can't serve two masters. You can't say you support capitalism, but yet you want to work in the best interests of poor people. It's impossible. The two won't fit. And I'm saying poor people now advisedly. I'm not talking about, because again, this is ultimately not a black or white issue. And we've got to recognize that the economic structure is supported and reinforced by the political realities. So how do you change the system? We got to change the manner of selection and election of people in positions of power. That is the only way to do it. Now, how that change comes about is a different question. I'm not addressing that, but that change must be made. We must change the people who are making the decisions. We must change the people who have the authority to make those decisions. And so if the people in Annapolis think that somehow or another this is just an adjustable item, that this is just a scale that we can slide upward or down and fix things to make things work, no. You got to go all in on this one. You got to go all in. This is an all or nothing proposition.
Well, it's really going to be interesting to see how Annapolis approaches this, because one, it's every time you listen to Trump or anyone from who's leading in the effort in his administration, they're talking about shifting things back to the states. And so if you're going to shift education back to the states, you're going to get rid of the IRS and let the states handle their own, tax policy. And just so when you look at all of these pieces that they're trying to push back to the states, then the state has to look at itself as a quote unquote self-governing body without any federal influence. And then what does that mean? And so the years of talking about no new taxes and all these things, you have to articulate to your people as to what we are in right now. What is happening and how does this affect the fiscal situation of our state? And what we would now have to run and administer that we didn't have to run and administer before. And where is the money going to come from? It's come from the state taxpayer dollars, and all these states who don't have estate tax, like Florida and Texas and Wyoming and all these places, where's the money coming from? Because if the federal government decides that we're not picking up the bag for the things that we were providing that were supporting your state, that's done. So there has to be a clear, honest articulation of what's going on, understanding the politics of that. But if you're honest and pointing the finger as to what's not happening in the federal government, and now that in turn says that what we have to do from a state level, then that's just what the message is. And then you move accordingly. At least the people know what's going on at that point.
Okay, gentlemen, we're going to go to Alice Toriente, the godmother. How you doing, Miss Alice?
Fine. How are you, Doni?
Good, good. Should I say Heil Hitler to you? I understand the president didn't want to put his hand on the Bible.
I saw a picture of that on TV this morning of him taking his wife holding the Bibles, and he had his hand up, but didn't have his hand on either one of them. That was sort of interesting, but they're saying that even though they take the oath, they don't have to have their hand on the Bible. I don't know where that's written, but that was what I heard.
So what'd you think?
I looked at what was interesting to me was that his son, Junior, gave a quick look at what was going on and had a funny expression on his face. You got to see it. My explaining it doesn't make it, clear. You've got to see what it looks like. I don't know. It's just, yesterday was not a good day for me. And so I decided to, as an alternative, to watch some movies on TCM because I just couldn't take it. And then when I woke up this morning and saw a synopsis of what had gone on, it just left something missing in my stomach. I just don't feel good about what's going on. So I gather there are going to be a lot of lawsuits regarding some of the pardons or some of the things that he's said he's going to do about birthright, citizens' birthright and some of the other things. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But I just felt not good this morning about what I saw. It was interesting that Kamala Harris came in all black yesterday. And I was very surprised to hear that they booed Barack Obama yesterday with President Barack Obama when he came in yesterday. So I'm just catching up on things that are going on, and we'll just have to see what happens.
Okay. Anything else?
No, not that I can think. Let's see. Not that I can think of. Lots of people said that they were going to boycott watching the inauguration yesterday because they didn't want the viewership to be big, and so they said they knew that Trump was very happy about quoting the numbers of people who were involved in what it was he was doing. So it'll be interesting to see if there are numbers about how many people watch inauguration. Another thing that was shocking that I was told was that there was a black college, Mississippi Valley State, who was invited to come to march in the parade yesterday. And they had a GoFundMe page to pay their way to come to march in the parade. And I understand they did come and march in the.
Did we lose you, Ani? I think we lost her.
Okay.
Any thoughts on that, Byron? Was it Mississippi State?
Mississippi Valley.
Mississippi Valley
State, yeah. And what's interesting now, again, this is my fault because I didn't even watch to see if there even was a parade, but I did hear that they were coming. And then the other point to this is, like, usually when there's an election or there's an inauguration, everybody's out and you can see how many people showed up to, outside on the mall and the whole nine. And that is an issue because he, think about it. He said, it was too cold to have everybody out there. I remember sitting out there for Barack Obama, and it was what, 17 degrees, and it was hundreds of thousands of people out there. So
was it too cold when he started that insurrection?
Yeah, it was freezing cold during the insurrection. I mean, so I think it's, if we know Trump and it comes down to ratings and it comes down to size of people who are out there. So this is him saying, I want to get ahead of this. I want to change the optics. Let's go inside. And then, so it's I shouldn't say a handful, but just, smaller crowd of folks. And you had to really squint your eyes to see some black folks in there. And other than the Secret Service black brothers who was in there, and I think Ketanji definitely was there, and maybe Clyburn or some folks like that. But that was about it. So it comes down to the optics. We're getting ready to see a lot of choreographed things happen. Things that are outside of the norm. And again, we just have to be prepared for what's next. What is our agenda and how we're approaching this? I sent you the information, and when Bob talked about the Poor People's Campaign, there is an active Poor People's Campaign right now that was the Reverend down in North Carolina, he runs that. And they, they have an outline agenda that I think it's time for us again, not only just as a black, constituency, but anybody who is looking at this from a moral or even from an economic perspective. What's the agenda that we can push legislatively in our communities, statewide, to really try to combat what's happening, what's getting ready to happen on the federal level?
Mr. Bob, do you think that more black people are going to purchase guns?
I do, and whether or not that is, and there are going to be cases where you're going to have to use them. They're going to be cases, and there have been cases already, and the attack against black folk has never really stopped, but we've never really defended ourselves either. See, the primary, in other words, we've never responded in a way which creates a deterrence to the repetition of the crime.
What about the Black Panthers?
The Black Panthers always believed in self-defense, as is the fruit of Islam. They believe in self-defense. They were not an affirmative. No black person that in my lifetime no organization has ever advocated for black folk to take to the streets and armed revolution. But they have said and do say that we have a natural right as human beings to defend ourselves. That's what the Panthers said. That's what the fruit of Islam says. And that's what every intelligent black person says today.
And that makes me think about Fred Hampton, especially because Fred Hampton in Chicago was another example of someone who started down that road. Actually, speaking a lot of what Bob is sharing today in talking about, number one, take up arms. Number two, organize a quote unquote poor people's campaign. And he went and reached out to the poor whites, went out and reached out to the poor Mexicans and the other Hispanic population, and said, we have to combat this collectively and look at this from an economic and a socioeconomic perspective as well. How do we protect our communities, our families? And as soon as they got wind that this 21-year-old brother down in Chicago was taking on that type of an approach, they took him out so quickly, he didn't even get a chance to see. He barely saw his 21st birthday. So this is an example of, black folks have seen things like that happen and said, you remember what happened to Fred Hampton? You remember what happened to these different folks? And they scurry off and don't want to lead these types of efforts.
Byron, you are from the state of Florida.
That's right.
I understand they have a group of young people there called the Not Effing Around crew.
Yeah, I've never heard of those folks.
Well, they use the profane word, not effing around. And they are strapped. You didn't hear about them? I think it was back during the George Floyd era.
No. And I will say this, though, during that time and a lot of times when there are situations like that, George Floyd and some of the other situations where you have these groups that pop up, and they are right there on the streets when the camera's out there. But afterwards, where's the organizing? Where's the mobility. So I hadn't heard anything about
that. Doesn't pay the broadcast.
Yeah, but it's definitely important to, if you're trying to build a real momentum or a real movement, it's important to make sure that other folks know how to organize and participate in these activities.
Mr. Bob, I don't think this current generation is going to take kindly to violence. This current generation of young black people. I don't see them singing, "We shall overcome."
Well, and we in my generation is partly responsible for that, because we were so anxious to get through the door that we thought we had opened for us, that we said our message to them was, we got ours, you got yours to get.
That's right.
So we didn't take time. We didn't take time to teach and to educate and to train and to nurture, and that's our fault. We gave up on that generation, and so now when we turn to them and say, "Where are you?" they say, "We were always where we were always, where you left us."
I'm going to put this out there. Mark Morial has headed the National Urban League for over 20 years.
Yeah.
Why would any young person follow him?
There's no reason at all. There's no reason. There's no reason at all, that because we don't speak truth to them. We speak accommodation and assimilation, and if we understand anything, that doesn't work. You cannot assimilate or be accommodated with people who deny your very humanity, who deny your right to exist as human beings, who question your right to claim the same thing that they claim, which is a hunk of land, and call it your own. Remember, at the same time that we were being denied their little 40 acres and a mule, they were giving away hundreds of acres under the Homestead Act to white settlers moving west.
That's right.
We ain't get a dime. The birthright citizenship wasn't invented under the 14th Amendment. It was invented long before that, because white folk who came here had to establish some basis for claiming ownership over the Indians.
Some black people did get a little land, including O.W. Gurley. I would encourage you all to watch Greenwood Rising. O.W. Gurley did get a piece of land.
Not from the government, though.
Yeah, he did, but he ended up moving then to Greenwood District, where he originally claimed some land. He beat out a white boy, actually, and kudos to that film, Greenwood Rising. We all should check it out. He still ran into that fight, though, and the truth is, the first blacks that went to Oklahoma, and I write about it, they ended up leaving what was Indian territory, went through Texas to Mexico. Is it time for some dual citizenship, I ask?
No, I don't think so. I think it's time that we claim our ownership in this place called America. Yeah. And we understand that our claim isn't based on the 14th Amendment. Our claim is based upon when our feet hit the ground. I tell people, it doesn't matter what part of the boat you got off of. Everybody landed on the same earth. Everybody landed on the same earth. Your claim is no greater than mine just because you came from a deck higher than me on the boat.
Okay, let me shift gears a bit. What's the deal with Canada being the 51st state? You're laughing.
Listen, man. This is this. I think again, this is going back to the rhetoric of fascism. The rhetoric of this is how we should. I'm going to paint a new picture. Let's go grab, Greenland and make Greenland a part of the United States. And we need to do that for, military, security purposes.
I blame white people. Listen, I blame white people for Trump and his comments on Greenland, on Canada. I mean, he's so disrespectful. So disrespectful.
Well, it don't matter who you blame. It's here now. Like this is real. This is not, what about when it comes? Today is the first day.
I'm not down for that fool.
Of his administration.
Go on without sending my children out to die for that fool. So what about our children in the military, Mr. Bob?
Make no mistake, this is not just about Trump. He's just a poster child. Here's the cheerleader. He's the one. Not even his people think he makes sense all the time. But so it's not. Don't make a mistake. When we get rid of Trump, we get rid of the problem. No,
that's exactly right.
No, that we do not get rid of the problem. We'll get rid of the problem when we become self-dependent. When we recognize our value to one another as human beings, as children of God. That's when we get rid of Trump and his followers. Our problem is we get misdirected so easily. We pick the path of least resistance. We think we like water when we're supposed to be wine. So Barack should have been with Michelle yesterday at home somewhere. I mean, Trump didn't go to Biden's inauguration.
He did not.
What obligated Barack to show up at Trump's? Oh, maybe they became buds down at Jimmy's funeral. I don't know. They had a lot of conversation. I don't know if nobody knows what the heck they were talking about, but they seemed to be kind of friendly. I don't know. I say part of what I say in jest, but in reality, Donnie, I say over and over again, we have to understand that our value doesn't come from white people. Our freedom didn't come from white people. Our essence didn't come. We have God-given rights. And until we understand that.
But these people don't want to recognize, and the only thing I see coming is that some of us are going to die trying to show these people that we're not playing.
And that unfortunately, I say unfortunately or not, is always that, because you know what somebody said, freedom isn't free. We got to protect our humanity. Isn't free either. When we live in a world where people would deny it under the name of colonization, under the name of westward expansion, under the name of of all those things, our humanity is something that we forever have to be vigilant and protect against. And some people, yes, in that struggle, some people are going to lose their life. But that's unfortunate. But it is in my judgment inevitable. But the fight is worth it. It's not just Fred Hampton. The same thing happened to Gaddafi. The same thing happened to Patrice Lumumba. The same thing happened to Steve Biko. I mean,
don't forget Barack Obama killed Gaddafi.
Yes.
The black president killed the black head of a sovereign nation. Against international law.
Not just of a sovereign nation, but the president of a sovereign nation, the leader of a sovereign nation who was about to forge a union between African countries that eventually would have created an economy that would have tanked the U.S. dollar. That's why he was killed. That's when Martin was killed. But that's an old story. We go back even to the Bible, Donnie. Jesus did a whole bunch of things that made folk mad with him, but they didn't plot to kill him till he turned over the money check.
The money. That's right. That's right. It all goes back to economics. All goes back to economics. And I think about. I'm sorry. I was gonna say I think about, and this is just thinking about some of the stories of Booker T. Washington during his time, and his objective to get as many black folks in America to come back to the South and rebuild it, because you already know you knew what to do there. The land is wide open, so much land everywhere. Even you go back to Alabama and Mississippi, now it's still land everywhere. Folks don't want to go down there and build and create their own economies, create their own communities, create their own banks. If we don't do that, then we're still, stuck hoping that Bank of America will provide us with a loan, or the next, just trying to assimilate, if you will. And we have to create a mindset. Number one, this is a massive country. And back to your point earlier, Donnie, that should we begin to go somewhere else and claim citizenship somewhere else, this country has so much land, so much opportunity. So a lot of this land is cheap. you know, but we have to get to a point where we want to build something that can help us economically, that can help to retell the story. And again, I think that we have to begin to think that way versus, you know, I hope they give us a check this week. We have to create our own.
The last time we built it, they burned it to the ground.
Well, that was then. This is now. Listen. That thread is not there all the time.
But that was rebuilt. You know, the insurance proceeds rebuilt it, but it was never the same because the heart of the people changed.
That's right.
They destroyed the will of the people to be free. That's what changed. That's why when integration came along and Ruth Chris opened their doors, that's why there's no more Samsons. That's why there's no more Cesses. That's why Pennsylvania Avenue, where the Royal Theater once stood, is desolate today because we killed the will of the people. The people's will is not in the buildings. It's not. It's the people. That's why the highway. That's what's so devastating about the highway to nowhere. That was supposed to connect to Route 70, and people are now saying, "Oh, well, look what they did." Well, they did the same thing to create in the footprint of EBDI in East Baltimore for Hopkins. The same thing. Displacement of Black community has always been the biggest part of urban development that this country has ever had since the Department of Housing was created 70 years ago or whenever it was.
Let me put this on the table: abortion.
Yeah.
Why was abortion so important to these conservatives to outlaw it? Why would so many white women vote against their own interests?
I can tell you right now, it wasn't because of their close relationship with Jesus Christ. I can tell you that.
Right.
It wasn't that. But they try to make it seem like that's what it came from. But when you look at it, it's the declining numbers of what they identify as pure white people, if you will. You know, Anglo-Saxons. It's that declining number in this country. And so, you know, we look at it from that respect.
Worldwide.
Well, yeah, definitely. But, you know, they don't care about the world. They care about this.
They're paying Black men to go to Poland.
Yeah, they don't care about anything else other than what's going on on these grounds. And these folks,
the Japanese are paying Black men to come there too.
To do what?
To mate.
Because they like pretty babies. Because they can't. That's the only way they can make color.
Yeah. Well,
there's a dwindling of populations.
Yeah.
In certain places.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you,
not
man.
Black and brown people.
Yeah, but those other. That's a great point. I see what you're saying. Anything that has been identified of just this is.
They call it the global
I'm purely South. This. I'm purely that.
They lump all of you together. You're the global South.
Yeah. Nah. Listen, man. It just evolution. Time goes on. That was a period when it was what they say in 1953, and this is what the census said that. 89% of Americans were identified as white in 1953, and the most recent census said that 53% of Americans were identified as white. Right, so that number is just going away from them, and you know, so you can talk hard about abortion. You can't get this. You got to have these kids. Don't mask it to make it seem like that you read a scripture that said this is the reason why we're doing this. You're doing it because you're trying to save your quote unquote race, which is just a figment of imagination anyway. There's no such thing as white.
Mr. Bob, why is it that people from India, some as black as my shirt, come here to America and seemingly look down their nose at Black people?
Well, you know, if you can control the story, then you can control the minds of those who hear or read it. They come here with an impression. They didn't get their impression of Black folk when they got here. They had it before they left the shores of India. they got it the same way that people in the rest of the world got it. You know, the world, don't forget that the black folk have been portrayed as coming from this little teeny place called Africa, which is 14 times smaller than what it is on the map. But it was all controlled by this one little white man who had Angawa, and he controlled all the animals, the black folk, everything. They called him Tarzan. So they come here with an image of black folk that was created by the white folk. White folk in Italy aren't called white people; they're called Italian. White people in France aren't called white people; they're called French. Right. This is the only place where they're called white.
No such thing.
So they come, and what do they want to do? They want to associate and assimilate with those people in power. That's natural. That makes sense. Why would I come here want to be part of a group that I've already been told ain't worth nothing, don't have nothing, and ain't go get nothing? Why would I want to be a part of that group?
Okay, so let me shift. Does Jill Carter, Senator Jill Carter, now board member, does she have a replacement yet?
I don't know. I haven't talked to her. You know, we've been sort of missing each other over the last few days because, you know, the board that she was appointed to, the Maryland Board of Contract Appeals, my daughter was actually the first black person ever to serve on that board. She was also appointed by Governor Moore. So, and my daughter is welcome former Senator Carter to as a member of the board, and Jill is. I've known Jill. Jill used many years ago worked in the office with Elijah Cummings and I. So I've known her for a long time. I knew her father. But
I was going to ask you, did you know Walter P. Carter?
Yes. He was the Perrin Mitchell era. But so I haven't really talked to her. I don't really, and I don't pay that much attention to.
Well, Malcolm Ruff wants the seat.
I've heard that. I have heard that. Yes. I don't know him, to be honest with you.
He's young, visibly black man. Works down at Murphy, Falcon Murphy.
Yeah.
And I think her name is Adar.
Adar was running for the seat?
Oh, that's right. You know what? I do remember him now. But you say
she's not African American.
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, Chocolate Brother, got the little twisties.
Malcolm's a good brother. Yeah.
When you said he worked in Billy's office, I do remember him now. I run into him quite a bit, or used to, at the Terra Cafe, actually.
Yeah, Malcolm's a good brother. Yeah.
But there's some others that are interested in that 41st District State Senator, and I think.
I know who you're talking about. The sister, she worked in the state's attorney's office.
Dahlia.
Yeah, Dahlia. Yeah.
Dahlia Attar.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right.
So that's going to be interesting to see. Do you remember when Lisa Gladden beat the brakes off of Barbara Hoffman? This is before your time, Byron. You don't remember that?
I remember.
Lisa Gladden was going up Emerson Avenue in dump trucks. Beep, beep.
Yeah. Another one of us gone way too soon. I do remember those days. So what do you think, Donnie? I mean, you asking the question. You think, brother, who do you think is going to fill that seat?
Oh, I'd love to see the black man get it.
What is the process of that? Does that have to come through the Central Committee, or is that strictly the gubernatorial?
That should be Central Committee.
Okay.
It should be State Central Committee, but the governor has to approve it.
Right.
Now the question is, who has the votes on the State Central Committee?
That's probably happening this week, actually. That's a good point. That's probably
this
happening.
week. How about 2-3 weeks ago?
Yeah, interesting. That's a good point. That will probably happen this week in terms of identifying and having that Central Committee. It probably have an open process too. That's worth connecting with.
Well, let me ask you this, gentlemen. Where is Martin O'Malley in all of this? Is he still at the Social Security Administration?
No, I know he's not there.
Because I saw him listed as former commissioner. That was short-lived.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know where. I mean, he stepped down, I believe, because he was then seeking chairmanship of the DNC.
Yeah.
I don't know where that stands, but I would tell you for the benefit
He didn't
of
have the
the
votes in that
listeners.
arena.
Yeah, I would tell you for the benefit of the listeners that O'Malley did do was tremendously helpful in doing what was necessary to help save the life of Dr. Michael Zollicoffer. You know, Dr. Z, as he's
Martin O'Malley.
he did. O'Malley put in
Great
motion.
job, Martin.
He put in motion the steps of SSA with his successor that ultimately resulted in Dr. Z getting the kind of coverage that he needed so that he could get the health care that he needed to treat the rectal cancer that he's afflicted with.
Oh wow!
And that's the first good thing I've ever heard about Martin O'Malley.
And I saw him. I saw O'Malley at the reception for Senator Alsobrook a few weeks back, and I thanked him for that because I mean I was the one who contacted him and asked him for help, and he stepped in immediately, and I'm very grateful that he helped save the life of one of my best friends, and I know Dr. Z as well. I don't care what else he does. I don't care what else he did.
Yeah,
or may do. That is in the book of good.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, very good. Okay. Guess we're over that.
I don't know what else is in the book.
That is good. That's a good thing. I like that.
So there's a statewide election next year.
Who's running?
Does Westmore get reelected?
Oh yeah. I think I don't see. In fact, I don't see any challenge to him within the so-called Democratic Party, and I still don't think that there's not enough Republicans in even notwithstanding Trump, there's still not enough Republicans, even those who are registered Democrats, to change that outcome. Because there's a bunch of Republicans that are registered Democrats in Maryland. That whole thing that they keep talking about, the Democrats outnumber, that's delusional and illusional. There's so many Republicans that are registered Democrats because they see that as a way of selecting the Democratic nominee at the primary level, because they know the primary is the election in Maryland, at least ostensibly. But anyway, I think that Governor Moore will be reelected, and a lot of it is the extent to which, or his margin of victory, depends upon how he resolves the budget crisis that the state currently has.
I was just going to ask Byron that. He's the money guy. Hogan said he left $3 billion in surplus. Westmore says he's got $8 billion in deficit. Could they both be telling the truth?
Yeah, I mean, well, the term that both of them are kind of dancing around is the structural term, because Hogan left excited that, again, going back to what we talked about, what are we receiving from the federal government? Federal government sends in a flood of dollars to help support what Hogan called a surplus, but that's not a structural surplus. That was a one-time deal. So what do you do with the one-time deal? Is it a giveaway? It's not affecting anything structural. So there was a structural deficit during Hogan's time, and now West has it as well, right? So in structural meaning, are we taking in enough tax revenue to address all of the line items for the state? And the answer is no. And so you have to look at how are we restructuring the way we do business to, one, continue to at least allow us to be an operating state that is paying its bills, but two, what are we doing? How do we think about economic growth? What are new markets that can easily, once people know about it, can begin to increase the revenue stream? And how we should be thinking about this from a Black economic perspective is, how can we take the approach of also even encouraging new markets for the state that can, we can have a percentage that supports, access to capital, or all these other factions that can support the plight of Black people in the state. So this is something that the issue comes down to. What the federal government was providing those days. Listen, Trump will stop that just because he knows that Maryland didn't support him. So we shouldn't expect anything from the federal government over the next 4 years. I wouldn't be surprised. So,
Byron, do we already have a drug addict mentality? Byron, they shove slots down our throats. They shove table gambling down our throats. They shove sports betting down our throats. Now I'm seeing Kevin Hart, Jamie Foxx telling me to go to the casinos, sports bet. Democrats.
Yeah.
But we broke.
I keep telling you, they ain't got nothing to do with Democrat. We gotta pour empty whatever jar that Kool-Aid is in, bust it. Because if we keep drinking out of that Republican and Democratic jar, we're gonna be drunk to the day we leave here.
That's right.
Delusional, illusional. That ain't got nothing to do with it. It's all about who got it and who got it to give. The fact of the matter is, this thing of structural deficit didn't start under Hogan. If you remember, Robert Ehrlich was the first one to cure the deficit by raising a whole bunch of fees. If you remember, it used to cost to file a personal property report. It was only $100. Ehrlich raised it to $300. It used to cost whatever it was to register for registration for your car. He raised that. So to cover up, to keep from getting more money from the people who really have it. Look, the tax rate for the super wealthy is currently capped at around 5%. That's got to go up. The people who have it have to put more in. The issue is what do you spend it for? It's really not so much how much you spend, but who do you spend it for? What do you spend it with? If you spend it so that the rich can make more money, they got no problem with that. But you can't talk about equity and fairness and talk about capitalism in the same breath. Without recognizing that one is diametrically opposed to the other. Capitalism, as this practice in this country, maybe worldwide, necessarily depends on the exploitation of a number of people,
including the young people in the Baltimore City public school system.
Exactly right. They're just fodder. Our
children are just fodder.
That's exactly right.
21st century schools bill was a joke.
Absolutely. The education has never been in the building, it's been in the teachers. And the education, and how do you get kids to school? When you strip them of all the things that naturally occur to them as human beings. You get rid of the arts, you get rid of the sciences, you get rid of the home economics, you get rid of you get rid of all the things that attract people. Now, once they get there, maybe you can teach them something else. You can teach them algebra, teach them calculus, teach them geometry, trigonometry, STEM, and all of that. But you can't teach them if they don't come. And so you have to have something that attracts them. The threats of going to jail for truancy ain't going to do it. Threats ain't gonna do it. So we wonder why now all of a sudden people want to talk about the absenteeism and why kids don't. Because in the name of economy, in the name of accountability, in the name of fiscal responsibility, we have stripped the schools of the very things that attract the bulk of the students to go there in the first place. And then we wonder why they ain't there, require and bemoan the fact, well, we can't teach them if they ain't there. Of course they're not there. Kids, they're just like everybody else. If you want them to come there, you got to put something to attract them. And you can't tell them about education or get education and get a good job. Hell, they see what you and me are doing. They see how hard we struggled with all our good education. We're still sitting here on Tuesday morning talking about what Trump's doing on the people in Baltimore. We're talking about the same problems that we talked about 50 years ago. Kids see that. So you ain't gonna sell them that bill of goods about get an education and you get a good job. No, they know that ain't true because they know their parents and they know the people that they know and see. So no, you gotta attract them to them.
Yeah.
So that means. So and go ahead, man.
That's their point. That's their point. Is what's in it for me? And I would encourage definitely all the brothers, as many brothers who can hear me talk right now, to just pick a school, elementary, middle, high school, whatever. Just pick one and make that your school. Make that the one that you and your boys, your crew, that's where you show up. Become involved in that PTA, become involved with the mentor groups at that school so they can see other options. They can see something else. They can say, well, wow, like, how are you here on a Wednesday at 9:30, but you don't work at this school? You work here? As the first thing they ask, do you work here? I say, no, I don't work here. I'm over the PTA. Or I'm in charge of this mentorship program. Come on, meet me at the school. We'll get you out of class. Let's rap. Let's talk about what's going on. Like, they need to be able to connect and see an option, something else other than what they see when they go home. Because when they go home, they see something else.
But the problem is they believe what they see most often. Yes. Consistency. We come and we are a special event. They know we ain't gonna be there. We there on Monday, but they know they ain't gonna see us on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. In fact, they might not see us again that whole year. But they see their parents every day. They see the people who live in the neighborhood every day. That's what they're gonna believe in. And if they don't see hope, if all they see in the lives of those people is despair, if all they see in the lives of those people is hopelessness, if all they see in the lives of these people is struggle with no apparent reward, or with unequal reward, or with reward that's not sufficient to support their families, that's what they grow up believing in, and they look for a way to avoid that by any means possible.
That's
and
true.
as quickly as possible. Kids may be uneducated, but they're not stupid.
They're not stupid. That's okay? A great point. And I'll tell you this: you may not get all of them. All of them may not say, you know what this dude is saying is great, and what the options that he took is right. But you may get
that's true
a percentage of them, and that percentage, and it's the objective of that percentage. And I know this sounds like a talented 10th conversation, but it's the objective of that percentage to invest optimism or whatever it is that they believe is the next way out, if you would. I don't want to use the word out, but at least a way of progress for that person, for that community, for that objective.
We keep telling people to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, and we keep saying that to people who ain't got boots.
That's right.
Okay, so the philosophy of those who's supposed to make it will make it is the governing mantra, I suspect, of the public school system. They know it's not intended for it's a system that's been mandated by law to house students during the day when they're supposed to be public school in session. It's not a system that's designed to educate the bulk of them. Because because they don't have the resources to do that, and so they know that the thing is, if you're personally committed enough, if you got enough personal drive and desire, you will make it. And we will say, if enough of those people make it through your intervention and Donnie's intervention and others, we will say that the system succeeded. The system failed because it was never designed to succeed for the majority of the kids that go to that school. And we've been taught, rather than fix it, we've been taught to escape it. We've been taught the minute we get $1, send our kids to private school. The minute we can, find a charter school somewhere, as though charter schools are inherently better. That public charter schools are inherently better than regular public schools. They're not. It's the perception. It's the perception that they're better. But the fact of the matter is, most of the children in this country, are going to be educated, if at all, in the public school system. And that's why we need to direct the resources. That's why we need to attract them to the buildings that the 21st century schools are building. That's now we need to reward the teachers who are committed to teaching them. And that's why we've got to put security back in the public schools. We've got to give parents the tools. You can't even discipline your own children no more. You discipline your child, you're guilty of child abuse. I'd be in jail now. I'd be in jail. I couldn't raise my kid. I'd be locked up. I'd still be in jail. If a child that grew up in my house tell me what they gonna do and what they go,
But you can get sworn in as president.
What?
You can get sworn in as president without putting your hand on the Bible. Gentlemen, we have to bring you back.
All right.
How Hitler
Yeah. How, how and you can be a convicted felon also.
If you're white. Good
If you're
morning,
white.
world.
Bye.